Hi, my name is Jens Nielsen. I'm here at Pictureline in Salt Lake City, and I'm excited about tonight to tell you a little bit about how to bring your negatives, your slides, your prints, your analog photos into the new digital world. We all are familiar with these new digital cameras that are coming out. There's so many of them that are coming out. They're making beautiful resolution images, and this is great. But what do I do with all those photos I took a few years back that weren't done digitally? I have taken thousands of photos with film. This happens to be a Hasselblad medium format camera, which is absolutely the most beautiful equipment you can find. But they're analog. It takes film photos, which is great, but they're really hard to send to your family or to share with other people over the internet because they're not digital. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about a few things that is going to tell us exactly how to do this. We're first going to talk a little bit about the different film formats that we have. Once we've done that, we're going to talk about how to load them into the holders to get them into the scanner. Once we've done that, we're actually going to talk about the Epson scan software that scans this into a digital format. And it's great software, and it makes beautiful photographs. All my analog pictures completely comes alive with this new digital scanner and digital format. After that, once we get the scan done, it has to be stored in a certain format to get it into the future. We're going to talk about a few different formats that will help us get those. And if you have any further questions about this, we're always available here at the store to either come in and talk to us, call us on the phone, or email us, and we'll be happy to help you get the most out of your scanner, your Epson scanner. So now that we have all these beautiful analog pictures and negatives and slides, let's talk about what we have. You may have taken a class at school, high school or college, where you did your own black and white developing. You'd have some black and white negatives that you made prints from, but now you want to scan them in to get them digitized. We all took pictures or film to the 1 hour lab, and what we'd get back was these negatives that were in these negative holders, and then we would make prints. These usually came together with the 4x6 or 3x5 or 5x7 prints that you would have made. Or we have slides. We also have some people that took slide film. These were actually what's called positive, so when you looked at them, you could actually see what they were. But these were also the ones that you would project on the wall in your family. In your family night, you would all gather around the projector and you'd have these beautiful things. This was before PowerPoint and before Keynote and before we had LCD projectors. Then we have another thing here. We have some medium format. This came out of the Hasselblad, actually. In order to get this into the scanner, we're going to need to cut them into about 3 or 4 longs, depending on what kind of format we had. We also have on here, on the table, we have some 4x5 transparencies. They came in transparencies or negatives as well. And you can scan these as well with your scanner, and any size format really will fit in there. And then the last thing we have are the prints. Everybody's got lots of prints. And so the fun thing about a scanner is we can take these beautiful prints and we can make them larger if we have to, and definitely preserve them, be able to send them to our family and loved ones, because everybody can email nowadays the pictures. Now we're going to put the film into the holders. I took the holders out of the scanner to show you how it's done correctly. Before we touch any film, we need to put on the gloves. These gloves are a nylon and a cotton blend. And what's nice about these gloves is that when they're done, when they get dirty, you just throw them in the wash, and they actually get better and better with every wash that you do. So now you have some really fancy gloves you can hold. Now you can take your film, your beautiful film that you have, and now you can mount it into the holder. We're going to start with A, which is 35mm negatives. They could either be black and white or color negatives. What we're going to do is we're going to open this up here. This comes up like this here. We're going to lay the film in there, but before we do so, we have to notice something. On the holder itself, it shows you how to put down the film. You can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is backwards. So we need to put the film down backwards. So when you look at the film itself, there is a right way and a wrong way. Each film has a number up on top. If you can read the number, you're right side up. You need to be upside down as you put it in. So when you lay it in here, you lay the film in, and obviously I could have gotten a few more frames in there, but this is what we have. And then we're going to take this and we're going to put it in the same way we took it out. And there's a little clip that just kind of clicks into place. You can kind of hear it right there. and now it's clicked into place. Now that is held in there perfectly, ready to be scanned. Next to that is the slides. You notice there's 4 slide slots right here. And again, upside down is what it's asking for. Right side up, no. Upside down, yes. So now we're going to take the slides that we have, and this is going to be a fun thing to show you. And that is, when you look at a slide mount itself, on one of the sides it says, this side towards screen. It kind of reads with very small lettering on here. And this is actually upside down. So if this is the way we want to put them in. This side towards screen is the one you'll be able to see as you put them in here. So the guy here, we turn them around and we put them in here as well. They can be horizontal or vertical. The scanner will actually figure out how to do that correctly when you actually scan it with the software. The next thing we have is this other slide holder over here, which is actually for medium formats. And it goes like this. It's a big film piece. Now, do you notice that my film comes like this here, which is way too long? I also have to cut it. So I have to cut it to size. So I take a scissors and I cut it and I lay it in upside down as well. It says right here, ABC upside down. And so when I can read it, the film here, and it says Kodak. This is the old Kodak 160 VC, vivid color. I cut that in, I put it upside down into the holder, close it down, and then I scan that as well. That's how we load the scanners, and now they're ready to be scanned into the computer, and we're ready to get our photographs digitized. Before you scan, you may encounter that some of your negatives and slides have gotten some dust and dirt and grime over the years by sitting in those shoe boxes wherever you've kept your old photographs. So right away, what we have is a rocket blaster that just helps just get some of that dust off the film and the negatives. That'll help you when you start scanning and you start getting them into the computer. That'll save you some time not having to retouch that. The other thing that we have is a PEC 12 solution. So if you have that grime that's really hard to get off your negatives and slides, you use the PEC 12, but you don't put it straight on. You actually use a PEC pad. In order to use a drop of this, you put a little bit on your non-abrasive wipe, and then you carefully take it off your film, your negative, with that non-abrasive wipe. And that way you have cleaner negatives and cleaner slides that will take you less time to retouch after you scan them. Now we're ready to put the holders into the scanner. We open up the lid here on the V550 scanner that Epson makes. This is the entry-level scanner, and it makes absolutely beautiful scans. Inside the lid, we have the transparency module. This is important because in order to do negatives and slides, we need a light in the lid itself so that the scanner itself can see what it's scanning. So this is the light that follows the actual scanning bed itself. Now, what we do is we're going to put these beautiful, we already loaded the negatives into the holder itself. And if you notice right here, there's a Z and an A on this particular holder. There's corresponding things here on the side of the scanner as A, B, C. So it makes it really simple to use. So right now, I am looking for A, and A is here on the side over here. So if I put it into this one here, it lays right into the holder and actually is right in place. Now if you notice, the actual negative itself is perfectly in the middle of the scanner. Both of these two lines are middle of the scanner, both those rows are. So now when you put down the lid itself, you're now ready to make a scan of negatives, color negatives, or black and white negatives. Now once you're done scanning the black and white and color negatives, you say, you know what, I really want to do slides next. So what we do is we see here on the slide side it's C. So now we turn it around, and there's a C corresponding on this side over here. There's a C on the side of the scanner, and there's a little divot you put it into, and there it holds it in place. And now we're ready to put the slides in, and as you recall, we have to put them upside down. They don't necessarily have to be vertical or horizontal. The computer will take care of that, or the software will. So right now we're putting them upside down. We can even put them, some of them sideways if we have to, because we can fix that when we actually scan them in. And just make sure they're upside down. Now a good way to figure that out, what's upside down on the slide, is the dull side is the one you will have up The glossy side will have to be down on the scanner itself. And now once that's done, now you're ready to scan the slides as well. So that's how we scan slides and negatives, 35mm. Now you may encounter that there is some film that is a little bit larger than that. So now we're going to take these out like this here. The slides just kind of collect up, just like this. There we go. We'll put those out to the side. It's a little harder with the gloves on, but once we get them out of here, oh, there he goes. There we go. Then what we have is we have a medium format negative, the one that I just cut, that I showed I was going to cut. If you notice down here it says B. The B says right here, there's a big B on it. There's a B here on the side. We put it here, and it fits into the divot as well. And now it's straight down the center where the transparency module is as well. And now we scan the medium format color negative that we have put in there. Now that we have scanned negatives and slides, let's scan the prints. First of all, we first open up the lid again. We remove out the negatives that we just finished scanning, and now we're going to scan some prints. In order to do so, we have to reinstall the cover that covers up the transparency module. It also helps hold the prints down because it has a little bit of cushiony stuff that helps the print hold it close to the glass. Now when you do this, it's important that when you take prints that you kind of gather the ones that are about the same size, so that when you scan them in, they become similar file sizes, similar resolution that you want for that size. So here I have 3 that are roughly the same size. I lay these in here like this, and in the software itself we will be able to draw a marquee around them and scan them individually. But right now I'll close this down here, and this cover here will keep them tight inside the scanner. And then in the software we'll go and select them, and then we'll be able to make beautiful scans of prints. So we have a tip for scanning prints, and that is if you have small prints, for example brownie size prints, which are the small ones that they used to take years ago, you kind of group them together and scan them all together, and the little bit larger ones like 4x6s, 3x5s, you scan those together as well. The reason being is that when you start scanning them, they become similar sizes. If you have small and large, you will have different size files and different quality of photos. So that's really important. Just a little quick tip for you. Now ready to scan. Let's go down and find the application down here in the dock. I put it down here, and it's called the Epson Scan application. When we click on it, it's going to ask us what scanner we're using, and we're using the V550 Perfection, Epson Perfection V550. When we click on this, it'll come up with a little welcome screen, and after the welcome screen we'll get a toolbox. Here's what we're going to be working with the next little while to learn this software right here. Let's start from the top, and you will notice that it comes up with a mode and has professional mode. There's 3 other modes as well besides the professional mode. There's full auto mode, home mode, and office mode. In order to unlock all the features of the scanner, let's use the professional mode. That'll give us the most we can get. So we're going to choose this. The next part that we have of this toolbox is your settings. Now you'll notice that there's other settings in here, and as I choose those other settings, things are going to change down below. That changed a little bit. Let's change this here again to a scanning glass. So there's different things that I have put in here. These settings are good if you're doing a certain kind of scanning and you are going to go and scan some other stuff and then come back again. It will remember your settings. So this one here we're going to call color. We're going to start with color prints. And that is what we're going to save for these settings here. So we're going to save that. Down below, the next one is the original. The document type, you have a choice of either film or reflective. Because we're doing prints, it is a reflective scanning process. The next thing is the document source, and that will be scanner glass. Then below that, you have a choice of either document or photo, and we're going to do photos. That's what we're scanning right now. So that's the original right here. Next thing is going to ask us what kind of color do we want on this particular scan. And you have some choices here. You can either do 48-bit color, 24-bit color, color smoothing, 16-bit grayscale, 18-bit grayscale, or just plain black and white for documents, etc. We're going to choose color. I know these prints are color that we're going to scan, so we're going to scan 24-bit color. That's going to give us plenty of color information. The 48-bit is twice the information of twice the size, and it's supposed to have twice the information, but most computers are more comfortable with 24-bit. So we're going to go 24-bit. We're not going to worry about the resolution right now. We're going to keep that at 600 for right now to see where we come up. Next part is document size. Since we're going to use the entire flatbed, the entire glass that's on the flatbed, we're going to go 8.5 by 11.7. That's the entire size of the glass on the scanner. Target size, you can go in and you can set, let's say there's a certain size that you want to reproduce or you need. Maybe it's an 8 by 10. You can put 8 by 10 in there, and the marquee will then constrain the size to be that exact size. Scale is a 100%. Trimming is on. Now down below that, there's some other settings as well, and we're going to talk about those in a minute. Right now, we're going to leave unsharp mask on. That just gives us a little bit sharper image. Before we go any further, we are going to do a quick preview, and as the preview goes over here, we'll see what we have. The window is a little bit overlapping, so we're going to move that away. We now have 4 color prints that we have scanned in here, and we can go and we can see what we have. The first one seems to be a little bit faded, and I think we can do something with that in a minute. But I think we're going to do these other 3 here really quick. As you can see here, as I go in around this here and draw the marquee around, you'll see the exposure change as well. It gets a little bit brighter, a little bit more contrast. It's just to make it a better scan. The same thing here, and this one right here as well. So over to your left here, next to your preview, you can erase a marquee. So that just erases that last marquee I did. We're going to go back and put it on here again. That's the first tool up here. Second tool is you can duplicate or copy the marquees. So if you wanted the exact same size marquee. The next thing is if you click on this, it will select the entire frame, anything that it'll detect where the pictures are, and it'll do 1 frame. Or you can click on all 3 marquees right here. When I select all, you'll notice the little ants are walking around in the 3rd frame here. If I select all, you'll see that all of them have now marquees that are live here. What we're going to do, that's important when we start scanning, because that'll now scan all 3 images right now. This here just rotates the overall all the way around. So you can go back to the right side up. The next thing we have, and this is the important part, as I have this selected here, this is where the important thing comes in. It'll tell me that the file size is a 17.62 megabyte file size. I have personally always wanted file sizes anywhere between 20 and 40 megabytes, because that will give me a really good output, way to retouch photos, but also if I ever wanted to print it, I can print anywhere between 8 by 10 up to 16 by 20. So first of all, I'm going to do this here really quick. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to change back to our resolution, and I'm going to show you what we have here. And I'm going to go, here's the resolution right here. As I change this, you will see that the file size down below will change. 70.5 is a little bit on the large size, so I'm going to go 800 and I'm at 31.3. Now you'll notice as I click on this, it'll change size to 30, and this will change to 32.54. The reason being is there are different size marquees that I have drawn around here, and I can be more careful about that, but it gives me a good idea of what the file size is going to be. Now when you scan prints, it's really important that you scan roughly the same size. So let's say I had a small print over here. That would be a much smaller quality than these ones here. So I always recommend scanning roughly the same size as you're doing multiples in these of these prints. So as we scan in right now, we are going to hit scan, and this will scan all 3 of them. So here you go, scan. Now the next thing we have, before we do that, actually, I'm going to go back and show you something that's kind of interesting. Hit cancel. See that little thing next to the scan right down here? This little thing has a folder and a print on it. Same thing that came up when I hit scan. But you can also do this here in order to give it a destination. So first of all, I have the file save settings, either document, it goes into my document folder, my picture folder, or other. I like having mine on the desktop. You can go in here and you can choose any folder on your computer. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit cancel for a second. Actually, you know what we're going to do is we're going to make a folder on the desktop called Scan Demo. So we're going to call Scan Demo, and it's going to go into our Scan Demo folder. So we're going to choose that folder right now. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to give it a prefix number, so it has a number. So we're going to prefix name, and so this is going to be called Scan Demo as well. And we can start with a certain number. Let's say I want to start with 001. Now, the next thing we have choices here is the format, the image format. You can choose choice between JPEG, a multi-TIFF, a PDF, a PICT file, a print image matching to file, a print image matching to file with a TIFF, or just a TIFF. The two things that I pay attention to is either a JPEG or a TIFF. I'm going to save him as TIFF because I'm going to want to redo some retouching. If I wasn't doing any retouching to them, I would probably save them as JPEG because they're compressed and easier to send. You can always save them as TIFF and convert them back to a JPEG in order to send them on the internet to your loved ones. So what we're going to do, the other options we had down here is overwrite any file with the same name, show this dialog box before next scan, and this, if this wasn't clicked, it wouldn't have come up at all. Open image folder after scanning and show add page dialog after scanning. We're going to OK that right now. And we're going to see a scan that comes up here. And here we go. It hits OK. And now it's going to do the scanning part. Now scan the 3 photos, and they're in the Scan Demo folder. So let's open up the folder and see what we have. And as you can see right here on this file size, you can see they're all around 31 to 34 megabytes. That's a great size. As we open these up, we can open up in any program, but let's just do a preview to see what we have. There's the first one. Here is the second one, and here is the third one. Looks good. They all look really good. Now let's go back to our preview again. We had our preview here, and that's not going to change. But what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of these marquees right here. They're all just deleted. Now we're going to draw a marquee around this one here, and I'm going to show you some magic that happens with the software. This here looks pretty good, but down below you'll see that there's a choice down here in the bottom part of the software. We have unsharp mask. Descreening is for newspaper print or for any print that you may have from a magazine. Color restoration, that's one we're going to be using. Then they have what's called backlit correction. That is if you have the sun from behind and the subject is in the shade. And dust removal. Dust removal is if you have anything that has to do with dust that's on the print itself. And the very bottom part is grayed out because that is used for negatives and slides, and that's called digital ice. That's also a dust removal software. So we're going to go right now and hit color restorations. As soon as I click on this, you'll see what happens in the preview over here, and things are going to change dramatically. I click on this, and wow, we just have a brand new, it looks like the color is great. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go down here, and we know that this is 30.85 megabytes. That's right in the range that we want to be in for a good scan. So I'm going to hit scan on this one here, and then in a second we'll show you what it comes up as. Scan Demo, we're going to scan as a TIFF, and of course it's number 4 because we already have 3 other ones as well. So let's hit OK on this, and this will take a minute just to come up, and once that comes up, and then we'll come back and show you what it looks like. Let's see what it looks like right now. Let's go here and move off to the side. Let's look at the Scanning Demo folder, and let's go for number 4. And now look at this here. Wow, that is quite a bit different than what we had in the preview. Let's go back to the preview over here. Let's see here what we have. And now we're going to take this here, and we're going to take the color restoration off. The color restoration goes like this here. And then we're going to remove the marquee. This is what we had before, and this is what we have now with the color restoration. And you'll see the difference right here. Look at this. Quite a bit different. And this is probably more true to what it was in the real when it was taken, the real life. And so this is what color restoration does in the software. These tools that you have in the bottom of your toolbox are quite powerful, and I encourage you to experiment with them. You can't do anything wrong. You just see how it looks. But this is quite amazing. We were able to scan these 4 great photographs in, and now we have some stuff we can work with, either to retouch them or to send them on to loved ones. But there are some little retouching, some little things that can happen in these scans here to make them even better. So this is how a color scan works. let's move on to the next thing and let's try a black and white. Ready to make a black and white print scan. So let's see what we have here. Right away we can use some of the similar settings. We have the document type being reflective of the scanner glass. We know it's a photo. We're going from a color to a black and white, and we're going to go 16-bit grayscale. That'll give us a really good black and white scan. And then before we do anything else, we're going to go down and we're going to hit the preview window. That'll give us an idea of what we have to work with. So right here it's going to scan in a preview really quick. Let me see what we have. We have an 8x10 black and white. We're going to hit a rotation button and you can see this beautiful print here. We're going to scan in a picture. This is an 8x10 original. So let me show you how this works. Let's say my target size, and you have a target size down here, is the original one. I can either choose a thumbnail, a screen, and see how it comes into a 5x7. Let's say a 5x7 is what I want in the future, or a 4x6. If an 8x10, automatically will come up with a little marquee that is 8x10. So I can go over this, and that marquee I can move up and down by grabbing the corners and see how I can move it around. Now it constrains the proportions of 8x10, but I can crop it in a little bit. Or let's say, you know what, I really want to give them a 5x7. So I go 5x7, and now it also changes the proportions as well. So here right now, a 5x7 is probably pretty good. I'm going to getting rid of some of that grass down in front, and I'm going to give them a 5x7. So that's how that works. Now right away on the bottom, you'll see that this is 42.74 megabytes, and that's a pretty good size. Let me show you how this works. The actual DPI itself is at 800. Let's say I scan this at 6400 DPI. That'll give me a 2.67 gigabyte file, which is huge, absolutely way too big. If I scan this down and I scan this at a, let's say a 150, that'll give me a 1.5 megabyte file, way too small. So again, back to how the resolution works, I like to say that, you know what, let's look at what kind of file size this is going to give me instead of looking at the resolution size. So this is a 34.62 megabytes. Again, I like to be in that sweet spot between 20 and 40 megabytes. So this falls right within what I want to have. So again, on the very bottom part, I do a little bit of unsharp mask. I usually always do that. It just kind of sharpens each of the individual pixels. I don't have any descreening on it because this is actually a photograph. Color restoration is not applicable because it's a black and white. Backlit correction, not really. And dust removal, we may put a little bit of dust removal on it. So we're going to put some dust removal in case it had some dust on it to start with. Now what we're going to do is we're going to scan this here, and then we're going to come back in a minute and we're going to show you what it looks like. Back to before, and by the way, this is important. Because I hit scan, it comes up with this here. Let's say I don't want this dialog box to come up every single time. I'll unclick this one here, and it automatically goes to a scan. So we're going to do that for right now because I kind of know what I want when I hit the scan button. So I hit OK, and now I'll do it scan. Right, we just finished scanning the black and white print, so let's see what it looks like. We're going to the scan demo folder, and we're going to open this one up. And by clicking the space bar, now we can see what we have. This is a 5x7. It originally was an 8x10, but we cropped it down to a 5x7 so we could make a 5x7 print for these young ladies. This particular picture is about 28, 29 years old. And this is back then it was the Olympus High School girls soccer team. So that's kind of fun to see that an old print like this come to life. So here we go now. We're going to now go to the next thing, and we're going to make a film scan. So right away we remove the lid, we open up the scanner, and in the very top there's a kind of a cover. We take the cover off and reveal the light in the lid itself. And so now we're ready to do some film scanning. So right away we change the document type from reflective to film. And now it comes up with some different film types. The choices we have are a positive film, which is slide film, color slide film. Then there's a color negative film, which is a print film, and then a black and white negative film also for black and white prints. The next thing we choose is, because we're doing positive film and we're going to do color positive, we're going to do 24-bit color. Before we do anything else, we now make what's called a preview. Now, very important is to follow instruction that's on the holder itself, and it shows you that you need to put the slides themselves upside down, and that means that the glossy part of the slide goes towards the glass, and that what faces upward is the matte part of the slide, what we call the emulsion side of the slide. So that's what we have right now. It's going to come in here, and it's give us a quick preview. Now you'll see right away that we have some cool stuff here. If I select any of these, you'll see that there'll be a little blue marking around it, and I can now see this in a little bit larger, and I can now go from side to side and see what they have. They're low resolution images, but I can see what I am looking at in here, so that's kind of fun to see. You can go back to the overall view again. Now if I select them all, they'll all scan, so this is going to be good. So let's go ahead and select all. They'll all have a blue marquee around them, and if I just want to select one of them, I can go in here now, and I'm actually going to select they'll select all with all 4. And now we're going to go, and we're going to go to normal for a second here and see what normal is. You can actually see where the slides are themselves in here in the holder. So now we're going to go in here. We're going to try to get this. We're going to select number 4. We're not going to scan these other ones here. We're just going to scan number 4. And this is what we're going to scan in. And the next thing we're going to do is down below, you'll notice that it's 1.73 megabytes, which is way too small for a good print. So I'm at 720 DPI. I'm now going to go up to 4800 DPI. That's a little bit large. So then we're going to go back to 32. And now I'm in that same range that we wanted to be in, that 20 to 40 megabyte range. This is 34.16. And that'll give us an incredible scan. So next thing we're going to do, we have some choices here on the very bottom. We now have the new digital ice technology, which will completely remove any artifacts that's in the image, like scratches, dust, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to click that on. It takes a little bit longer to scan, just to be aware of that, but it'll make a beautiful scan for sure. So right now we're going to scan, and then we're going to come back in a minute. We're going to take a good peek at this color slide scan. So let's see what it looks like, because it took a little bit longer because it was doing some digital ice, some different cleaning as well. So let's open this up here. Let's zoom in on this and see what we have. And see if we got some good detail. That looks really good. We got some good detail in here. It looks pretty clean as well. And we can move around on the image. You can definitely see it's a film. It's a film scan because it's got that kind of film grain to it. You can kind of see in here it has some film grain, but it looks really nice. It's a very clean scan of an old, looks like an old merchandise store from the older days. So that's the next thing we're going to try right now. And the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to go and we are going to make some negative scans. So let's turn the actual holder over, and what we're going to do is we're going to get to some negative scans here. There we go. We're going to start with a color negative scan. So right now we're going to go back here and we're going to go take these tools back up to the top again. Instead of positive film, it is going to be color negative film. As soon as I hit color negative film, we're going to lose our preview window. And right away again, we know it's color, so we're going to do a preview to see what we have. Now, these are also mounted similar. They're mounted upside down, which means the glossy side goes to the glass and the matte side goes to the top of the scanner. And right now, the negative is capable of doing 12 at a time. I believe you only have 8 in there right now, but it's capable of doing 12 negative 35mm negatives at a time. So here we go. We're going to get 8 of them. Oh, there we go. This is great to show you here. Right away, you can see some of them are sideways, some of them upside down. So right away, we're going to click on this one here, and we are going to make this thing right side up. These little kits right here. And this one here is in the garden, somebody planting a garden. Another one here. And you see how easy it is to do them. And this is how they will be scanned, by the way. That looks pretty good there. These kits are upside down. And here we go. Now, had we just done normal, you'll see if I hit the normal button here, you'll see just the actual scan itself. And you can see there's room for 4 more for a total of 12 scans. Here's, we're going to go back to the thumbnail again. And it kept. So what's cool about this is the scanner understands if they're upside down, right side up, sideways, and so forth as well. So this one here, for example, I can do, and I can turn them around, but this happens to be correct. They were put in correctly. So here we go. Now we're ready to scan these in. Again, we're back to this size again. We're at 35mm size. Again, we know we need to be around 20 to 40 megabytes. And if you look down below, because the color slide and the negatives are the same size, 3200 DPI will yield a 35 megabyte file roughly. So this is, and they're all like this right here. You can see them right there. Now we can check them all, or we can just scan one. Let's scan this one here. So let's uncheck this one's here. And then what we can do is we can scan that one we want to scan. And then we can see what it looks like in a second here. Let's pull this down and get these last two here unchecked. Otherwise they will scan as well. So now we're into one scan here. Again, back to the tools over here to the side. You have choices of digital ice if you want to get rid of some dust. And let's leave it off for now and see what it looks like. So we can kind of see a comparison if there's some dust and dirt on there. Let's scan this in here, and we'll be back in a second with the scan and see how that looks. And we're going to try a black and white negative next. The scan just finished, the color negative scan just finished. Let's look at this, what it looks like. Let's open up our scan demo folder, and we're going to click on this one here and see what we have. Wow, that looks good. That looks really sharp. Look at the dirt here, and the hands are really quite sharp. But over here we have one of these little dust particles, and maybe even a couple here in the shirts. Had we used digital ice, those most likely would have been taken care of. But overall, this looks like a really clean scan. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do the very last thing that we're going to do here, and that is a color, actually a black and white negative scan. We're done with the color for now. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the preview window, and then what we're going to do is we're going to change the film type to black and white negative. And what I put in there, I put in 12 black and white negatives, and we're going to change this to grayscale as well. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do a preview, and then we're going to see what we have here. This should give us 12 black and white negatives. So here we go. Let's see if we can get a preview here. There we go. Okay, right there. And we're going to get some thumbnails. Here are some good previews right here. And there is 12 of them. And we're going to go down here and you'll see there's full 12 of them right there. So that's what we have. We are going to take one of these and we're going to scan. This happens to be the back side of our old building. And we are going to get rid of everything else but the number 3 here. And we're going to scan that in and see what kind of quality we have on that. Now, very important here, if you'll notice, and that is because we went from color to black and white, the file size changed as well because it doesn't have as much information in it. So it went from roughly 34 megabytes in 24-bit color. We went to 24.85 megabytes in 16-bit black and white. So that's what you have right there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to give it a little bit more resolution here. And we're going to go and we're going to see here what we're going to get out of. If we go to 4800, we're roughly 55 megabytes, a little bit more than what I usually want. But let's just go 4800 DPI right now and see what we get. Now that's going to scan. Let's see what else we're going to do here on the tools down below. We're not going to do digital ice on this one. And backlight correction, no color. Obviously there's no color in it. And grain reduction. There's not much grain in here, but we could put grain reduction if we had a high-speed film, like a high ISO film. So we could do that if we wanted to, and that'll remove some of that grain that's in the film. But that's something you're going to have to experiment with yourself to see what kind of quality you get out from each of these. So here we go. We're going to hit scan right now, and then we're going to come back in a minute. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about a couple other things, and then we'll wrap this up. I just finished the last scan, and that is the black and white negative. So right now we're going to open that up and see what we have. And we're going to zoom in on this one here. This is a downtown building here. Let's see what we have here. Yep, this is what we have. Beautiful black and white. We have a little bit of a squirrely over here that digital ice would have taken care of had we done it. It's easy to fix in afterwards with software as well. But this is what we have, a nice old scan of downtown. And so that's what concludes our scanning. So this is kind of how all the scanning software works, so it's easy to work with. There's one thing that I kind of want to bring up, and that is if you are ever scanning larger negatives or slides that are bigger than what you have holders for, you are more than welcome to put it straight onto the glass, and actually will do a pretty good job scanning it. The only thing you have to do is you have to leave a little opening at the end towards the back of the scanner that does a little calibration before. If you actually look at the holder itself that you're using, there's a little cutout. You're going to need to have that same cutout if you're laying them straight onto the glass itself. And how we know that is if you don't leave that, it'll come up with an error and you'll be calling and wondering why it doesn't work. So this kind of concludes some of the software that the Epson Scan software. There's a few more tricks and tips that we can show you as well, but this is what kind of is the generic overall how we use the software. Now that we've finished scanning on this incredible scanner, and it wasn't super hard, it was actually quite fun and easy, we now have these incredible, beautiful photographs, images, pictures, whatever you want to call them. They're now on my computer. And there's two things that I think you should remember. First of all, we need to store them in a format that will be able to be read in the future. And so that's an important part of it. Make sure that it's a format that actually will transfer into what people will see 10, 50, 100 years from now. The second thing is to duplicate. You have to share your images. They need to be in more than one place in case a hard drive goes out or some other thing happens, maybe a house gets flooded or whatever, and the hard drive is part of that. Share them. Put the photos you want to keep for the future in multiple places. Give them to aunts, share them with aunts, uncles, parents, children, whatever you want to do, so that you have these memories for many generations to come. And that's really the whole key behind taking photographs. It is small pieces of our lives that we give to future generations so they can see how we lived and how we enjoyed this world. Thank you for taking the time to view this class. If you have any further questions, please contact us via the phone, on the internet, or come into the store and talk to us directly. Thank you.